Well, we're back. Ellen Hart knows a thing or two about libraries and about our guest, Stu Wilson. Why don't you do the honors?
I would be delighted to. Stu Wilson, as you mentioned, is the Vice President of Operations for the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. And for those of you who don't or haven't been updated, from the last 2 years, the St. Paul Friends has come through and rescued the Minnesota Book Awards. The Minnesota Book Awards is a 20 years it's been around. And actually, I think the Friends started this of St. Paul.
The Friends did start the Minnesota Book Awards with a bunch of other partners, but as part of a big festival of the book, which was very popular.
Now, you administer the award along with Elaine Hopkins and Nelson.
Yes,
right.
Yes, the three of us are the lead.
The people who need to drink the magnum of champagne after it's all over.
We need to.
I know you do. So tell us a little bit about the Minnesota Book Awards.
It's a very unique program. There are only a couple of other book awards programs run in other states that are at this level.
Out of curiosity, do you know where those are?
Well, the other one that's most comparable is Washington State, out of Seattle. And actually, the Seattle Public Library runs that program. Oregon also has a big program that runs a little differently than Minnesota's. But Minnesota's is also unusual in that it's very democratic. It's anyone can nominate a book. The judges come from across the state and include a whole array of people.
And they're all volunteer, are they not?
And they're all volunteers. So it's a very, as I said, kind of democratic grassroots awards program. And it also extends out into the state in kind of unusual ways. Where you're talking about libraries, we have a network of, I think it's over 400 public libraries in the state that we reach out to promote the book awards.
And how do you select the judges?
The judges, we have 2 rounds of judging. The first round chooses the finalist books, so that there are 4 finalists in each of the categories. We have 8 categories. And those are primarily librarians and booksellers. We've kind of learned that when you have 30, 40, 50 books, your average person doesn't want to wade through all of those, even though it's a joy. Booksellers and librarians are pretty used to judging the quality of that many books fairly quickly. So it's pretty much just librarians and booksellers from across the state.
Essentially professionals.
Professionals at choosing quality.
And to be eligible to have a book submitted, what are the criteria?
There are really 2 basic criteria. One is you have to be a Minnesotan. And a Minnesotan in the last year. So it's not by birth, it's that you're currently a resident of Minnesota. There's some interesting sub-clauses. There's kind of I like to call it the Garrison Keillor sub-clause, because for a while, of course he's a Minnesotan, but he lived in River Falls for a while. So we have a little sub-clause that if you're, if you live and work, if you work in Minnesota and you're considered a Minnesotan and you live just across the border, you can still add a little
sneak under the fence
if you add some, give it
ask nicely.
If you ask nicely, exactly. So I forgot the other part of the question.
Well, what are the criteria? And
the other one is that the book is published in the previous year. So in 2008, we were giving awards for books that were published in 2007. We need a process. It takes a couple of months for 2 rounds of judging to judge the books.
In a typical year, how many books are you going to receive?
In the 2 years we've run the book awards, again in 8 categories, we've received 250 to 400 books. One year it was a little larger. So it's a large quantity of books. The smaller categories like poetry is 15 to 20 books. Children's can be 40 to 50 books. So it's
I think when I looked online for the genre category last year, there were like 40 books.
Oh, genre was very large. But it's also a testament to just how huge the book community is in Minnesota, for the size of state we are, where there's every other person you meet on the street
is a writer. I know. You're a writer.
It's in the water.
So what? Yes.
I just have to say this: the Book Award Gala affair this past year was right next door to the Oscars in terms of its
It was
opulence and its
beautiful.
celebration.
Oh,
it
so
was just
well done.
wonderful.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
I
It's so much fun to put on, and
As
we
long as
really
you
wanted
bring it
to
up,
get
I'll
celebration.
mention the fact that we have 2 or 3 pictures that our director's
Oh.
going to show at times. We don't have to refer to them, but they're going to show 2 or 3 pictures of, in fact, the last 2 Minnesota Book Awards that your people put together, and I think it'll give our audience a really good look at what
And what it looked like.
fine
Yeah.
gala affair
It was
is.
spectacular.
Better than the Oscars,
We should mention
Because we were there.
because we were there.
we should mention Opus and Olives too before, so make sure we have time for that because the Friends
You better bring it
administers
up
that
then.
as well.
We do.
Yeah.
The Book Awards is really a program for us. It's
Right.
not a fundraiser. We operate it basically on covering costs.
We'll talk
to
about-
to promote Minnesota books.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, the whole point of awards is to connect Minnesota readers and Minnesota writers. There's something special and dynamic about. I think it's true for writers to connect with readers where you live, but also for readers, there's
Absolutely.
this kind of special dynamic quality that they're writing about something that I've been there,
Right.
or I can connect with them in some way.
Right.
So it's really a kind of a library promotion of connecting that local readers and local writers. Our Opus and Olives event, which is a huge event, is really a fundraiser to raise money for the St. Paul Public
And
Library.
who will be coming this year?
This year, it's in October 12th, and we have 2 writers booked. We bring in writers of national import, and usually our MC is a local writer. This year we have 2 writers. Val McDermott, a great mystery writer from
And a
Britain,
good
is
friend, as it
coming,
happens.
and good
Cool.
friend is coming. And then we've just booked really tremendous Civil War historian James McPherson.
Oh, fabulous. Okay.
Pulitzer Prize winner,
Okay.
so has a new book out on Lincoln. So
wonderful.
the 2 authors we booked so far are
Fabulous.
Fabulous. One more question about the Minnesota Book Awards, because our time is probably running short. In
Always
emailing, you had talked about some goals for future hopes for expanding the Book Awards. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. This is going to depend a little bit on funding and resources, as
Sure.
always, but there are a couple of things I would love to expand to. One is to go back in history and create some kind of Writers Hall of Fame. It doesn't really exist in Minnesota. I kind of hate the title Hall of Fame, but whereas
Archive, you could call it an archive.
archive, but honoring the
stacks.
Fitzgeralds and the Sinclair Lewis and Wanda
Absolutely.
Gag, and even more recent writers like John J.F. Powers. Really tremendous
John
writer.
Hassler.
John Hassler,
Absolutely,
exactly.
yeah.
And maybe even people once they win 5 awards, maybe they'd automatically get into the.
Well, then you retire the jersey. That's what we. That's what we think. But anyway.
So how long is this a full-time, basically, in operation? In other words, we've just a month or 2 gone from the last Book Awards.
The Book Awards is a year-round operation. The big activities happen in the fall when we're getting nominations, and then the judging process, which leads into the spring. The Book Awards is held in April.
Okay.
But currently, at the moment, we're producing bookmarks and posters of the winners from this year to distribute in libraries.
And you also operate a program that brings Minnesota Book Award winning authors to libraries throughout the state.
Thanks to a grant from the state librarian, we've been able the last 2 years to offer grants to local libraries throughout the state, primarily outside of the metro area, to pay
Great.
honoraria and all costs to bring authors to their local library. So I think that's
Wow.
been about 30. We've funded about 30 programs over the last 2 years. So
Boy, that's superb.
really rewarding. And we're also in production currently. The gala will be broadcast on TPT, TPT's Minnesota channel this fall.
Live? The same
No,
night?
it'll be a taped edited version.
Now
But that
this-
will also go out to libraries so that they
Okay.
can run it on their.
This past year is going to be shown.
It'll be shown in August.
Okay.
Yeah, this past year, and then we also create DVDs, so it'll be on the shelves of libraries. throughout
Oh,
the
that's
state.
so cool.
It'll be in the libraries.
It will be in the libraries.
That's a really
We've
good
also, as Kent can attest, we've also on those DVDs have done interviews with all the winning authors, so that throughout the state, if they're having
Good
Kent
idea.
come, they can see an interview in advance, and it's really heavily used by book
How was
clubs.
he?
Yeah.
Great in close-up.
Is that right?
Well, having been published for almost 20 years, myself, 19 years, my first book was nominated for a Minnesota Book Award 19 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and I have been to many, many of them, and they have, I mean, this is something that over the years has really grown and changed and developed, and to what it is today, it's